Here's something nobody tells you. The median American has exactly $8,000 saved, not $80,000, not $800,000, $8,000. That's it. That's the middle of the country. And yet, the people who manage to cross $10,000? Say something almost always changes after that. Not just in their bank account, in how they think, how they sleep, how they make decisions. So, what actually happens at $10,000? And why does almost nobody talk about what comes after the saving part? That's what this video's about. Before we get there, let's look at where most people actually are. The typical American household has $8,000 in their bank account. That includes checking, savings, and everything else. Where it gets uncomfortable. According to a 2025 survey, the median emergency savings for Americans is just $600. $600. Not $6,000. Not $600 per month. $600. Total. And nearly 21% of Americans have no emergency savings at all. Zero. So when we talk about saving $10,000, we're not talking about being rich. We're talking about being in a group most people never reach. And the question is, why? Most people think the reason they can't save is income. I just don't make enough. And look, yes, income matters. But here's what the data actually shows. The personal saving rate in the U.S. is 4.9% of disposable income. On a $50,000 salary, that's about $200 a month. At that rate, hitting $10,000 takes over 4 years. 4 years of perfect consistency. No emergencies, no slip-ups. No month where your car decides to have opinions. And this is why people quit. Not because they're lazy. Not because they're bad with money. Because the goal feels impossibly far away. Financial advisors often note that the hardest part of building wealth isn't the math. It's the behavior. And when the behavior has to be maintained for 4 years before you see meaningful results, most people don't make it. Here's the thing, though. There's a very specific reason why the people who do make it don't just reach $10,000. They keep going. And it has almost nothing to do with discipline. Let's talk about what changes the moment you cross that number. Change number 1. Emergencies stop being emergencies. Data from the Federal Reserve shows that nearly 40% of Americans would struggle to cover an unexpected $400 expense. The average car repair costs between $500 and $2,000. A typical emergency dental procedure can run from $300 to $5,000. Now think about what life looks like without $10,000 saved. Your car breaks down. That's a crisis. Your tooth hurts. That's a crisis. Your landlord raises the rent. That's a crisis. Every single unexpected thing in life becomes a financial emergency. But at $10,000, most common emergencies become inconveniences rather than disasters. A broken refrigerator or unexpected medical bill no longer threatens your entire financial stability. That's not a small thing. That's a completely different experience of being alive. Change number 2. The question you ask yourself changes. This one is subtle, but it's massive. When living paycheck to paycheck, nearly every spending decision revolves around, can I afford this? But with a financial cushion, the primary question transforms into, do I want to spend my money on this? Read that again slowly. Can I afford this? Versus, do I want to? One question is about survival. The other is about choice. And that shift, from survival thinking to choice thinking, is worth more than the $10,000 itself. Here's the part that changes everything. And almost nobody explains it properly. When you hit $10,000, savings begin to reshape your thinking before they reshape your lifestyle. Consistency builds confidence more reliably than income ever could. Let that sink in. It's not about the number. It's about what you proved to yourself by reaching the number. Because here's what happened on the way to $10,000. You said no to things. You made uncomfortable choices. You stayed consistent when it was boring. And your brain noticed. Psychological research shows that progress toward goals becomes self-reinforcing. The satisfaction of reaching a milestone increases motivation to continue. In other words, saving becomes easier the more you save. Not because your income went up. Not because your expenses went down. Because your brain rewired itself around a new identity. I'm someone who saves money. And that identity is worth more than any spreadsheet. Now here's where things get interesting. Because at $10,000, something new becomes available to you. Something that was basically theoretical before. Investing. Financial experts typically recommend keeping 3 to 6 months of expenses in cash reserves before investing. For many people, $10,000 represents this threshold. So before $10,000, investing feels reckless, because if the market drops and you need that money, you're in trouble. But at $10,000, you have a floor. And that floor changes your relationship with risk. With a financial buffer, people begin to understand that modest, consistent growth over time can work alongside their effort rather than against it. Now, your money is doing something while you sleep. It's not much at first, maybe $30 in interest, maybe $80 from a dividend. But here's the thing about that $30. You didn't work for it. You didn't show up for it. It just appeared because you were patient enough to reach $10,000. And once you see that happen once, you want to see it happen again. Now let's talk about the part nobody warns you about, because reaching $10,000 is great, but there's a trap waiting right there at the finish line. And a lot of people fall into it. It's called lifestyle creep. You saved $10,000, you feel good, you feel secure, and suddenly, that car you've been eyeing doesn't feel so unreasonable. That apartment upgrade feels like a reward you earned. That vacation feels like you deserve it. And slowly, quietly, your expenses rise to match your new comfort level. The $10,000 stops growing. Sometimes it starts shrinking. And 2 years later, you're back to $6,000 wondering what happened. Some people stop early. Some spend it without intention. The lasting value lies in the habits and mindset that made it possible, not the number itself. The $10,000 was never the point. The point was who you became while saving it. So let's say you avoid the trap. You hit $10,000. You keep the habits. You keep building. What does the path actually look like from here? $10,000 to $25,000. This is the momentum phase. Saving feels natural now. You're starting to invest small amounts. Your emergency is covered. You're no longer just surviving. You're building. $25,000 to $50,000. This is where compounding starts to become real. Your investments are growing. You're making decisions based on goals, not on fear. You start thinking about things like a house, starting a business, or retiring early. These weren't options at zero. They're real conversations now. $50,000 and beyond. This is where money begins to work alongside effort rather than against it. You're no longer doing it alone. Your money has become a teammate. And all of it traces back to that first $10,000. That first slow, painful, boring, unglamorous $10,000. Here's the truth. Most finance content skips. The average American under 35 has about $5,400 saved, which means most people are close, not hopeless. Close. The gap between where most people are and $10,000 is smaller than it feels, but it requires doing something most people aren't willing to do, being uncomfortable on purpose, for long enough that it becomes normal. The first $10,000 is not the destination. It is evidence that skills, mindset, and consistency can work together to create options. That belief, more than the number, is what enables long-term growth. So no, $10,000 won't make you rich. It won't solve all your problems. It won't let you quit your job. But it will do something more valuable than any of that. It will change how you see yourself. And once that changes, everything changes. If you want to see what happens after $25,000, that video is next.